YouTube is a tricky devil to work with, and one that, growing up watching videos on the platform, I've learned to fear. There have been literally countless times that I've seen other, better YouTubers make something genuinely exquisite, only to say in the next video they got demonetized for playing like 0.5 seconds of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. So when I stand here before you, invisible as always, it's with the generally accepted fact that this video is going to land me in some amount of copyright violating hot water, no matter what I do. But basically, I built my channel on the concept that media has become impossible to parse through, and I could be some kind of a guiding hand to the, well, good bits. So I've got in front of us here 100 movies or shows I want to talk about, but for one reason or another can't, due to worries of copyright, or more satisfyingly because somebody else already made a pretty good deep dive video and I don't want to ride on the coattails of a 5-hour long video essay. So, the two ground rules. First, these are in order from most to least popular on IMDb, meaning we're going to start with the more recognizable stuff, and the further along we get, the more you'll get to peek into my dark and twisted mind. Second, I want to avoid making another hour-long video for a while if I can help it, so I'm making these micro reviews, 2 sentences max. Before we begin, remember to leave a like on the video if you enjoy it, and if you like me and what I'm doing here, go ahead and subscribe. So to the newbies, welcome, and to the oldies, welcome back. Let's talk about the movies and shows I can't talk about. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. I've had a passing interest in the Ninja Turtles since I was a kid, but they were never really on my radar. That being said, I really loved this interpretation of the characters and seeing them come across as actual teens, even if it's a bit cringeworthy sometimes. The Walking Dead Season 1. Some shows reach their peak in the first season and only slope downhill. The Walking Dead is a great mini-series that lasted only 1 season, and that's all they needed. Stranger Things Season 1. Okay, I get it. There are a lot of fans out there who love the later seasons, but I just find it all way too repetitive. Season 1 was built to be a one-off to an anthology show, so I think it serves itself very well as, again, a single season. The Super Mario Bros. Movie. My main gripe with this movie is the voice actors, who definitely didn't mesh most of the time. Aside from that, it's easily the best video game to film adaptation I have ever seen. Not to say that's a high bar, but I'm incredibly pleased nonetheless. Arrival. Brainy sci-fi is good sci-fi. The Shawshank Redemption. Stephen King has written 1 billion books, and those have been adapted 1 million times, but Shawshank is generally considered to be in the top 3, and it didn't sit well with me to not share some appreciation for a thought-provoking prison drama. Reservoir Dogs. I mean, is it really a surprise to hear me say that Quentin Tarantino's breakout film is a good one? Pulp Fiction. I mean, is it really a surprise to hear me say that Quentin Tarantino's biggest film is a good one? Wait, the Vegas are brothers? Titanic. Remember how I said I'd start with the recognizable stuff? Titanic is so dang pervasive, it's basically pre-installed into everyone's cortex by sheer social osmosis. American Psycho. We Live in a Society. Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Season 1 and 2. A good show that's spiritually adjacent to The Office and Parks and Recreation. Pretty solid and funny, but sadly started to lose me as time went on. Blade Runner. The Final Cut. There's 1,000,001 different cuts of Blade Runner, but this is the one. Pick this one. Blade Runner 2049. I really enjoy this movie, but it has the tiny thing of having a total celebrity scumbag in the main cast. Setting that aside, this is one of the exceedingly few times that a sequel made 30 odd years later is actually worth the wait. The Silence of the Lambs. I don't know what fava beans are, and I don't know if I care to find out for sure. Beetlejuice. It's weird and wonderful and probably Tim Burton's strangest film, which is saying a lot. Dude's a freak. Westworld, Season 1. So it's kind of a clear habit of mine that I prefer the early seasons of a lot of shows, and I think things go downhill from there. Well, Westworld's first season is a beautiful deep dive into transhumanism and the nature of the soul, and the other seasons are not quite that. Taxi Driver. We continue to live in a society. Casino Royale. I grew up knowing about James Bond, but never really saw any movies until Daniel Craig's. The first is really solid, if a little too focused on realism. Skyfall. I skip Quantum of Solace when bundling these together because the WGA did too. Skyfall gets things back on track. Spectre. I love Christoph Waltz in anything. More Christoph Waltz. No Time to Die. This isn't how you utilize Christoph Waltz. Otherwise, though, it's a beautiful send-off to Craig's James Bond, and definitely my favorite out of the bunch. Shrek. If you know the behind-the-scenes troubles, it's a miracle that this thing got made. That being said, I can't imagine my childhood without it. Shrek 2. After Shrek came a somehow even better follow-up, Far, Far Away Idol. No, but in all seriousness, Shrek 2 used the first film as a jumping-off point, and it really paid off. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Literally everything that followed Shrek 2 deserved to be left in a landfill until we hit Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. I wish it was like an hour longer, because it's so good that it feels 20 minutes long. Back to the Future. Okay guys, haha, time travel incest, very funny. But seriously, this is my favorite time travel story. Not too convoluted, and just the right amount of fun. Chicken Run. Aardman movies hold a special place in my heart for being simple, yet delightful. And for many people, it started with Chicken Run. Chernobyl. It's Chernobyl. Everyone was talking about this when it came out, for a reason. Knives Out. Daniel Craig with a southern drawl and Chris Evans acting like the exact opposite of Captain America. Everything in this movie is a treat that makes me wish I was a famous mystery writer with a toxic family. Instead, I got the raw half of that deal. Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. I don't think I love Glass Onion quite as much as I love Knives Out, but it's still a very enjoyable sequel with great social commentary. It also provided a very interesting mystery that actually had me guessing more than its sleuthing sibling film. BoJack Horseman, a show about an incredibly flawed and terrible man that makes you feel sad in a very special way. 2001: A Space Odyssey, a historic entry to sci-fi cinema helmed by a completely frickin' insane director. The Shining, all work and no play makes Homer something. Shutter Island. I watched this movie when psychological thrillers weren't really on my radar. They 100% are now, and I still haven't gotten over the ending. Avatar: The Last Airbender. I never got around to Avatar until I was in my mid-20s, so no, I say this without nostalgia. This is the greatest show ever produced by Nickelodeon. SpongeBob SquarePants be damned. Boardwalk Empire. I only knew Steve Buscemi from comedic roles, so seeing him in this was a genuine eye-opener. This is a beautifully crafted show with ups, downs, and loop-de-loops, like a true roller coaster should have. The Haunting of Hill House. The Haunting of Hill House, true to its name, has haunted me in the best of ways ever since I first saw it. If I didn't find that somebody beat me to the punch online, I definitely would have dedicated a full hour-plus video essay to the whole miniseries myself. Bob's Burgers, Season 1 to 4. If you're curious, this is my comfort show. Season 1 is dicey since it's trying a bit too hard to be edgy, but the rest is just delightful in a weird and unique way. The Bob's Burgers movie. As with The Simpsons, Bob's Burgers gained enough of a rep to get a theatrical film. It isn't perfect, per se, but it's enjoyable in the same way you might find The Muppets from 2011 to be enjoyable. The Terminator, a genre-defining classic that changed cinema for the better. No notes. T2, Judgment Day. Okay, one note, I like this one better. Rogue One. Alright, I know I'm going to get some of you fussed when I talk about how I prefer to watch Star Wars, but that's too bad. Anytime I sit down and watch these films now, I always start with Rogue One. Star Wars, A New Hope. Rogue One leading right into A New Hope works really well for me. The original film itself is, of course, one of the most famous classic films in the world, so I don't have much to add myself that hasn't been said ad nauseum since 1977. Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back. Personally, I find this to be a slight dip between the other films of the original trilogy, but it still stands tall as a fantastic addition to the Star Wars mythos. Star Wars, Revenge of the Sith. After the revelation at the end of Empire Strikes Back, it's kind of enlightening in a unique way to take a breather from the downer ending and see the final days of Anakin Skywalker. Star Wars, Return of the Jedi. A beautiful send-off to a beautiful set of films. I'm so glad they chose to end things here and never make a direct sequel. Nobody. John Wick is all well and good, but I wish he was played by Saul Goodman. A Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984. The original Nightmare on Elm Street stands alone as the high point of the franchise, with an element of dread that no other horror movie monster has the ability to replicate. The Truman Show. This movie is why I have general anxiety disorder. Training Day. This movie was saying ACAB before it was trendy. The Breakfast Club. This is the high school movie. Nothing like it. Broadchurch, Season 1. The latter seasons meandered a bit, but the initial story for Broadchurch is a strong one that gives you a twist in your gut that leaves you wanting more. The Thing, 1982. Dear God, is this movie terrifying? The idea that there could be an imposter anywhere among us like this is just too much to handle. Spirited Away. It feels like it's cheating to say I like Studio Ghibli movies, but I mean, how could you say otherwise? Spirited Away is one of my favorites and gives audiences a wonderful tale of childhood growth. The Big Lebowski. A big movie about nothing. It's perfect. Snowpiercer, 2013. We've seen the apocalypse with a random gimmick for flavor countless times, but Snowpiercer utilizes its own structure to tell a perfect, linear narrative that makes it a trip I can't recommend highly enough. What We Do in the Shadows, 2014. The originator of the hit TV series and a breakout film for Taika Waititi. It's a must-watch every October. Altered Carbon, Season 1. Maybe a little messy, and maybe a little too overt, but Altered Carbon makes a cyberpunk capitalist dystopia seem fun. Plus, it's a mystery thriller that tears down the 1%, which is also a big plus. 500 Days of Summer. A weird and irreverent film starring horrible people. What's not to like? Zootopia. I'm Not a Furry. Castlevania. I didn't think there would ever be a good adaptation of a game anywhere, but I am so glad to have been proven so entirely wrong. The Cabin in the Woods. Having grown up watching horror movies that I definitely should not have been, Cabin in the Woods feels like a love letter to people like me. Toy Story. Having watched this as a kid, I don't think I ever looked at my toys the same way again. Toy Story 2. When I was a wee lad, I thought this was the boring one, but as an adult, I just think it's a lot more nuanced and gives a very solid exploration of the characters we got to know in the last film. Toy Story 3. I'm not crying, you're crying. The Sixth Sense. This movie has been effectively memed to hell and back, but for good reason. It's unique to the landscape of horror cinema at the time it came out, and still holds up pretty darn well. 28 Days Later. The fact that this is ostensibly an indie film is baffling to me. It would honestly be impressive just on a technical level, but the plot also has some of the most effectively tragic characters I've seen in a horror film. A Quiet Place. Yes, they could have just lived by the waterfall. Yes, I still like the movie. Castaway. Volleyballs and toothaches. Castaway is a strangely compelling movie to me, one that I appreciate on multiple levels. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Grunka, lunka, dunkity dequel. I don't care that they've made a prequel. Jojo Rabbit. Shoes. Arthur Christmas. This is my annual Christmas movie, my must-watch. It's funny, it's got heart, and it's got a weirdly high amount of gifted voice talent. Up. I'm not the first to say it, but the introductory sequence in Up makes the movie. Even if it ended after the first couple minutes, it'd still be on the list. Aladdin, 1992. Robin Williams killed it in this. While a lot of the drama that preceded the movie was pretty egregious, I still get lost in the magic of it every time I watch it. Tangled. This came out right in a sweet spot of Disney's history, right as they leapt into 3D animation, but before those same types of films started consuming themselves like an Ouroboros. It's fun, maybe a little simple, but also simply enchanting. The Amazing World of Gumball. We may crumble and fall to dust, motes of sand in a vast desert, but Gumball will still be there, like a statue forged from gold. Zombieland. Right before the zombie craze got a little too tiring, we got Zombieland. I really like this movie primarily because it takes one of the most consistently dour and depressing horror scenarios and flips the script, making it fun and entertaining instead, while not fully dropping the sadder implications of it all. WALL-E. He's just a little guy. 10 Cloverfield Lane. I don't know if I'm alone when I say this, but I like 10 Cloverfield Lane bundles more than its spiritual predecessor. The story is bleak, sad, and nuanced in a way that deserves multiple watches to fully get a handle on. 12 Years a Slave. I'm not the right person to talk about the relevance and historical significance of this film, and I won't pretend to be. I'll just say that it was an incredibly heartfelt and genuine film that feels like it needs to be watched by more people. Source Code. This is such an odd film conceptually, and I kind of dig it. My only gripe is that I wish they went for the controversial ending they were definitely setting up, and then we could just scrap the last couple minutes. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. This is another one of those films I watched when I was much too young for it, and because of that, I didn't fully comprehend it at the time, but it stuck with me nonetheless. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Yeah, Jessica Rabbit, ooga ooga, we get it, but seriously, this film is a masterwork on countless levels, and still stands tall as the most convincing movie to blend live action and animation on screen together. Beauty and the Beast, 1991. Irreplaceable and classic. Beauty and the Beast is smart, funny, a little tragic, and very loving. Turning Red. Being a Canadian myself who grew up around the same time this movie takes place, I can say that it is very accurate to the experience of becoming a teenager, aside from the literal magic. It's also very uplifting, and I find myself watching it a lot more often than I thought I would based on the trailer. Wreck-It Ralph. I, like many others, was drawn in on the I recognize that thing factor, but Wreck-It Ralph has a sense of sincerity that makes it more than just a referential film. It's got heart, and a big one at that. Bridge to Terabithia. No spoilers, but we can all agree this was the moment our childhood ended, right? Slumdog Millionaire. Slumdog Millionaire might be a little overhyped in the public consciousness, but it's still an incredibly good film to take a look at if you're up for something dramatic. Tucker and Dale versus Evil. I honestly went into this one blind, and I think that added to the enjoyment by a pretty big margin. So I'll only say it's a good horror-flavored movie with Alan Tudyk. Go watch it. Chicago. I've got a weird relationship with musicals, mostly because my dad was pretty conservative at the time I was growing up, and those fell under the fruity category. This was one of the first musicals that I watched as an adult, and really helped me learn that there isn't anything inherently wrong with them. They can even be good. Super 8. Stranger Things and Cloverfield. Split the difference and you get Super 8. She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. I wasn't quick to hop on board with this one, but found myself entranced the further into it I got. It's a great reboot of an old property that really would have just kept collecting dust otherwise. Chronicle. This one is a little low-key and a little edgy at times, but I'd say give it a watch if you want a grounded take on superheroes that isn't just a cringy bloodbath like some other shows out there. The Book of Life. This is a movie I find myself visiting frequently. The sense of humor, the heart, the story of family, it's a weird mix of cozy and adventurous that I can't stop coming back to. The Adventures of Tintin. A fun adventure movie with uncanny valley CGI. What's not to love? Bo Burnham, Inside. Alright, I might be stretching the definition of a movie, but Bo Burnham's Inside is just what everybody needed to see in the middle of a pandemic. Cinderella Man. Boxing movies are a weird category of film, right? At least we got this and Rocky, so it's not like it's a bad thing. Stranger Than Fiction. This was such a mind boggle to me when I first watched it. Again, the less said, the better, but it's a Will Ferrell movie with an existential crisis well worth the price of admission. Of Mice and Men. Just think about the rabbits. The Muppets. Alright, get your pitchforks ready. First, this is easily in my top 3 Muppet movies, and second, we stan Walter in this household. Ernest and Celestine. There was a day I decided to take a swing and watch something French, and I landed on Ernest and Celestine. This one's just delightful. A heartwarming treat with a simple story and unforgettable characters. And there we are, ladies, theybies, and gentlemen, a righteous 100 films and shows that I would dearly talk your ear off about if it wouldn't bury me under the heel of our corporate overlords. If you really enjoyed this video, hopefully enough to have left a like and subscribed, you'll be happy to know that we also have a video available here on the history of Superman, detailing their story within the main comic canon. Thanks for sticking with us. I'll see you in the next one.